Welcome, everybody. On behalf of California State Parks, I want to say hello to you from the Hearst San Simeon State Historical Monument, otherwise known as Hearst Castle. My name is Laura, and I'm a tour guide here at Hearst Castle. We're standing in front of Mr. William Randolph Hearst's big house, in Spanish, Casa Grande. Mr. William Randolph Hearst was a media mogul. He would be comparable to today's Mark Zuckerberg. He had that kind of notoriety. Known primarily for newspaper publishing, he was a very wealthy man. And for 28 years, he decided to build here his childhood dream at San Simeon. And this project would be a 28-year project from 1919 to 1947, collaborating with his chief architect during that 28 years, her name, Miss Julia Morgan, out of San Francisco. Now imagine being invited here as a guest of Mr. William Randolph Hearst and being able to stay at Casa Grande, the big house. As the camera pans upward, you are looking at two bell towers that house in each of those towers 18 carillon bells. Imagine being a guest here and having those bells welcome you as they chimed their welcome call to you, much like what Gertrude Ederle experienced when she was a guest here in 1928. We're going to talk a little bit more about Gertrude Ederle today, as she was an Olympic and English Channel swimming champion that Mr. Hearst wanted to acquaint himself with. And here we are at another beautiful location at the Hearst property. We're standing in front of one of Mr. Hearst's three cottages, Casa del Monte, the house of the mountain, because it overlooks the nearby Santa Lucia Mountains. As the camera pans over to the marble statue, this figurine that you see, this is Mercury. And Mercury was the fleet-footed messenger of the gods. You'll notice the wings that are strapped to his feet. He was quite speedy with his ability to transport information to the gods. And Gertrude Caroline Ederle herself was blessed with the speed of Mercury. Born October 23rd, 1905, Gertrude Caroline Ederle would go on and win 3 Olympic medals in the Paris 1924 Olympics, 2 bronze medals and 1 gold medal. In her specialties, the 400-meter freestyle and the 100-meter freestyle, she would win the bronze medals. As a team member of the 4x100-meter freestyle, she would win the gold medal. But it was her achievement in 1926 that cemented her place in sports history. And that was, she was the first woman to cross a 35-mile trek known as the English Channel. Not only did she cement her place in history as being the first woman, she was also a world record holder for the time. She broke the men's record by 1 hour and 59 minutes. Only 5 individuals, all men, had crossed that English Channel successfully. They used the breaststroke. How did she break that record by nearly 2 hours? By using her trademark stroke that achieved her Olympic championship, the American freestyle or crawl. And here we are at another beautiful location on the Hearst property. We're standing in front of another cottage called Casa del Sol, the House of the Sun. As the camera pans over to the left, standing in front of Casa del Sol are the Verona Italian red marble statues, the lion statues. The lions, of course, represent courage, and that's exactly what Gertrude Ederle exhibited, a lion-heartedness of courage to cross that 35-mile channel swim. Now, in 1925, she decided to turn professional. She had communicated to a journalist that it didn't sit well with her that she won 2 bronze medals in her favorite Olympic events, the 100 and 400-meter events. So the next year, 1925, she turned professional and decided to make that her next goal. In preparation for that English Channel swim, she knew she had her work cut out for her. So she prepared for and successfully finished a 22-mile swim near her hometown of New York City, swimming in the summer of 1925 from Battery Park, New York to Sandy Hook, New Jersey. Now, Gertrude Ederle knew she had 13 more miles she would have to swim in that 35-mile ocean swim known as the English Channel in the North Atlantic. but she felt well prepared. She goes over in August of 1925, leaving from the shores of France. She is about a third to halfway through the swim, and her coach persuades her to go ahead and quit the swim. He's afraid she's going to drown. And much to her protestation and against her own will, she reluctantly decides to go ahead and do so. Undeterred, Gertrude Ederle would hire another coach, and in 1926, August 6 to be precise, she would once again leave from the shores of France and make that attempt and successful crossing of the English Channel. She could only wear a bathing cap, a two-piece swimming suit, no wetsuit, and goggles. She could have nutrition, but she could only receive it either by way of a pole or by way of her support crew giving it to her, putting it into her mouth. She enjoyed chicken legs, vegetable soup, and orange slices. She would have to endure temperatures in the North Atlantic that range between 42 degrees Fahrenheit and 64 degrees Fahrenheit. So she was coated in lanolin, a petroleum-like jelly, to keep her body insulated. That would also help to protect her from the jellyfish stings and the 6-foot waves that she also endured. But 14 hours and 39 minutes later, Gertrude Ederle crawled to those shores of Kingstown, England, a hero. And when she crawled up onto that shore, she resembled more of a boxer than she did a swimmer, due to all the jellyfish stings she endured. Needless to say, Gertrude Ederle was a cultural sensation when she crawled upon those shores of Kingstown, England. She would be welcomed back in her hometown of New York City to the first ever ticker tape parade, being mobbed by over 2 million individuals. She had the status, the cultural sensation she was, that of Charles Lindbergh or Babe Ruth. And of course, Mr. Hearst, being in newspapers, wanted to get to know this very famous swimming champion. So in 1928, he would invite her here to enjoy the property of San Simeon and the sumptuousness of Hearst Castle. Imagine, if you will, as we stand here on the Neptune Terrace, overlooking probably the most iconic outdoor structure here at Hearst Castle, the Neptune Pool. Gertrude Ederle, imagine her swimming laps effortlessly, like she did when she won those Olympic medals in 1924. Or perhaps she was giving swim instructions and swimming lessons to some of the more aquatically challenged Hollywood actors of the time, such as Greta Garbo and Charlie Chaplin, who are also here both in 1928. Now in 1933, Gertrude Ederle would suffer from a severe back injury that would take her out of competition. She also had a severe childhood bout with measles that made her partially deaf in one ear. And ironically, the very feat that made her world famous at English Channel Swim would lead to her eventual and total deafness. Undeterred, however, being the champion that she was, she would go on and become a swim instructor, a swimming instructor for the deaf at the Lexington School for the Deaf in New York City. She lived a quiet life, passing away in the year 2003 at the ripe old age of 98. And as we think about Gertrude Ederle and her legacy of swimming the English Channel, being the first woman to do so, she said the following: "It had to be done, it could be done, and I did it." Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for visiting us here at Hearst Castle on our virtual tour. Please be well, be safe. We'll see you on another tour.